Please be made aware that in this compilation you are listening to right now does not refer to actual fish that inhabit our oceans or a good dish to feed upon with the family, nor does it refer to the actual activity of going out to fish. The context in which we refer to is entirely metaphorical, and the fish is used as a tool or symbol that helps portray the underlying truths that exist in nature. I am only reinterpreting them in a way that my experience and knowledge corresponds with, and also in a way that seems most effective in reminding you of the wisdom which you already contain deep within yourself. Remember, words are purely a means to an end, not an end to a means. By this I mean do not wander off with the words but rather understand them as a piece of the whole puzzle, for example, a leg in a body, a bolt or nut in a machine. Yes, it is good to look at detail, but to solely focus on one aspect blurs out the entire image, and the message itself becomes almost non-existent if not illusionary, and can even be antagonistic to the main point that is being expressed. So keep an open mind and take your time going through this book, and you might find your own gems in the midst of all this junk. Chapter 1, Introduction. I welcome all the seekers of knowledge and truth from far and wide who were fortunate enough to cross paths with this book. Firstly, I would like to send out gratitude and positivity to all the greater forces and higher frequency entities present throughout the multiverse for assisting in the creation of this book. Many barriers were there in existence before it came to be the material that you are now able to consume and digest. This is why I give thanks to divinity that allowed all the gates to be open. Before I begin, let me explain what is the purpose of this book and how it is meant to be used and applied in your daily life. The fish complex is the overstanding of the human psyche and its relationship to the world, which is primarily based in the third dimension in which you can physically touch and interact with matter, although the contents of this book will help you reach higher levels of consciousness. In simple terms, this book can be seen as a literal roadmap that can and will help those who understand and critically analyze the information stored in this piece of literature through this earthly experience from a human point of view. Do take your time to evaluate and experiment with the concepts and knowledge presented here, and please do share your feedback and testimonies. That would be wonderful to hear. Let us proceed. Here is a surefire way to get anything you have ever wanted. Let us remember we live a life of infinite possibilities and an abundance of everything we have ever needed and wanted. We only disconnect from this truth because we regularly consume content that heightens up our desires to indulge in everything that glorifies material and everything related to pleasuring our senses, and we have been programmed to associate that with hard labor or a very high-paying job. This results in us having a very disproportionate narratives when it comes to actual objects and items of value versus the effort it takes to acquire them. To be clear, we are a very impressionable species, and it is often too easy to influence and manipulate the human mind. As I have mentioned before, we are bombarded by an influx of so much sensory information that to lead intense spikes of emotions which eventually cause an imbalance in mood over a long period of time. So what I mean by this is that we are easily swayed and triggered by sensory information, and this generally affects our feelings and thoughts. Therefore, the longer we are exposed to certain sensory information, whether it makes us feel good or bad, we are most likely to develop certain desires based on our association with that sensory information, and that affects our emotional response as a person, which ultimately shapes our behavior. To clarify even further, as people we are able to fulfill all of our desires without having to trade in hard labor, but by just doing the appropriate actions towards attaining them. The reason most people do not attain their desires is because they are not clear as to what exactly do they want. It's very hard to find something you have no idea about or what it is. On the other hand, it is super easy to find what you are looking for if you know what it is and can describe it in adequate detail. A good example of this: going to a lake to go fish, but the area you are in does not contain any fish whatsoever, compared to knowing what kind of species of fish you are looking for and where it is most likely to be found. In the two scenarios, only one of them would give the results that are wanted over the other because of only one difference, and that is clarity or specifics. A lot of the times we are exposed to shiny and captivating stimulus, and since we are all unique and different, we respond differently to it because of our past experiences and/or general outlook on life. Most of the time our response to a particular stimulus, which can either be a car, a plane, a watch, an attractive person or a vacation on a private island etc. dictates our general association with that particular stimulus, and how we feel about it affects our desire for it. So if you associate that particular stimulus with a high-paying job or an immense amount of money and in your own personal context you feel like you don't have neither, then you are most likely going to decrease your desire for that object or stimulus presented to you, therefore creating a separation between you and that object. And since you equate that fish with what you don't have, the more you are exposed to it the more uncomfortable you get around it, therefore creating a desire to distance yourself from it. A lot of the time people still carry the old programming that has been imposed on us by society, our immediate relationships and communities since childhood, and very few change that programming that has been embedded. What I mean about the programming is the general outlook and response to the stimulus that is presented to us on a daily basis. This is the wiring in our brains that is automated and is operating in what we call the subconscious mind. The subconscious is not the easiest thing to change, but with consistent effort and focus it can be adjusted and rewired into a new pattern or program that is more suitable for the attainment of our desires. Rewiring your subconscious mind is a fundamental step into a new life in the most real sense, and not superficially. Now that we are on the same page, let us now break down what is a fish and how to get one. In the context of this book, a fish is a goal or a desire that one wishes to catch and attain. In this chapter we will dissect the whole ideology of what exactly is a fish. I would like to note and mention that we are all unique and different. This is a very important point because it is crucial that we draw a distinction between us as people. Your own personality and unique identity should never be neglected because that is what holds the most weight in terms of our association with the sensory information that is presented to us. We are simply highlighting this fact because yes, we are all triggered by the same stimulus or sensory information, but that does not automatically mean that we want to acquire the exact same stimulus in the very same way. Now this point is very key because it could make or break the formula presented in this book. Okay. Now moving on. Back to your own personal identity and individual essence. This factor is critical in catching a fish because it will influence your desire to attain and get the fish you want.